Anyway, no, I meant something I actually have to do that makes a difference, but I can't think of what it is. It's nothing. I get that feeling a lot, and justifiably so, because I do forget a lot of things, but I don't know what it is. What's that? Yeah. All right, so we are in the book of Genesis, but let's have a word of prayer. Father, we're thankful we can come apart this morning to think about your word and the people and the events in the history that you've left us, what they mean to us. Help us to ascertain the truth and the meaning of the words that we read, that they might benefit us and strengthen our faith. Give us guidance in how to treat our neighbor as we should, Father. We ask your blessings in all these things in Christ's name. Amen. I can't remember the page number I'm supposed to be on. That's not it. Hang on. Somewhere here close. Oh, why did I? Okay, so we've basically stopped the story of Joseph here in being down in Egypt, and I don't want to repeat too much of it, even though it's a great story, that his brothers had come before him, and he has maneuvered it around so that they don't know who he is, and they finally brought his brother, full brother Benjamin, to him. And he decides it's time to reveal himself to his brothers. It says he couldn't, this is in chapter 45. We covered this a little bit, so I won't read too much of it, but that he wept and made everyone leave, and finally even the Egyptians heard it, him weeping. And so then Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Does my father still live? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed at his presence. They were so afraid when this happened, when he revealed himself, that they couldn't speak. They were afraid to say anything. And then Joseph says, please come near to me. And so they came near, and he said, I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. But now do not therefore be grieved or angry with yourselves because you sold me there, for God sent me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years the famine has been in the land, and there are still 5 years land which they will neither be plowing nor harvesting. And God sent me before you to preserve a posterity for you in the earth, and save your lives by a great deliverance. And so now it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go get my father, and so forth. So, and anyway, he says at verse 12, and behold, your eyes and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see that it is my mouth that speaks. You're still stunned, but you know that it's me now because I'm talking to you in our language, and you know it's me. And you shall tell my father of all my glory in Egypt and of all that you have seen, and you shall hurry and bring my father down here. He fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and so forth. Kissed all of his brothers. And after that, his brothers talked with him, when none of them got knifed in the back when they hugged him. Now, the report of it was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brothers have come. And so it pleased Pharaoh and his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, say to your brothers, do this, load your animals and depart, go to the land of Canaan, bring your father and your household and come to me, for I will give you the best of the land of Egypt, and you will eat the fat of the land. Now, you are commanded, do this, take carts out of the land of Egypt for your little ones and your wives, and bring your father and come. Now, these would be not just any old carts. These would be the carts of Pharaoh. They would look very different than whatever carts they had in Canaan, and they would certainly be decked out and important with carts. And you take them to bring all your little ones here, so they don't have to walk all that way. And I'm going to give you the best of the land. So they did this, and they left, gave him provisions, gave to each man changes of garments, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of garments. So here's the favoritism still manifesting itself now, brother to brother. Can we understand this favoritism? Yeah, we can probably understand this a little more, you know. It's one thing for a parent to have a favorite child. It's another thing for one brother to favor one of his other brothers more. So I can tell you something. I'm not the favorite brother. And we can all see why. But anyway, I'm not the favorite brother. I was my mother's favorite, of course, but that's what I say. And he sent his father these things, 10 donkeys loaded with good things of Egypt, 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, bread, food for his father for the journey. So he said to his brothers, send his brothers away, and they departed. And he said to them, see that you do not become troubled along the way. And they came up out of Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to Jacob their father. So this caravan makes its way back up along this road, back up to Canaan. Dangerous road, but they made it. And they told him, Joseph is still alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt.
Yeah, that'd have been a tough story to cover, wouldn't it? Go back and tell them.
Well, they got to admit their own guilt. They've got to admit their guilt. We lied to you, and we sold him into Egypt as a slave. It's one of those bitter, sweet things that slowly dawns on them. And Jacob's heart stood still because he did not believe them. People don't believe that when they thought someone's been dead for a long time, that now they're alive. That it doesn't sink in very well because the cost of believing it is very high. When they told him all the words which Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the carts which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. The carts proved that what they were saying was true. These are a bunch of lying scum that sold their brother into Egypt. Why should I believe you? Either they've hijacked an Egyptian caravan and brought the carts back, or you're telling the truth. Then Israel said, it is enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. So he just basically said, I don't care about all the other stuff. I just want to go see Joseph. Okay.
Mike?
Yeah. Yeah, Bob.
My biggest worry, if I was one of those brothers, since Joseph is second in command, where is your nearest exit? Because of what I did to him, what is he going to do to me?
Oh, that's what they're thinking. They still don't believe it. Years later, they're expecting to be killed. What they said, Bob, later we'll read this, is that they figured that as long as the father was alive, he wouldn't kill him. But once the old man died, all bets are off. That's right. Well, don't we see this in families sometimes? As long as the parents are alive, the kids kind of sort of have a truce at times. But when parents die, it all breaks apart. And even when it's good, they lose touch with each other when the parents die. My brothers and I made a pact that we weren't going to do that because of stories like this. Done pretty well with it. Could be better, but we knew that when our parents died, us with all of our children, each of us had big families, that we would drift apart, even though we were close. Much less if there had been trouble in the family. So now God uses that trouble, all that trouble in families. It's not good, but God has a use for that because it gets people to separate, go away from each other. You see these sandhill cranes around here. Oh, they're so cute with the little babies. In spring they pair up. Then you see the little chicks there. What are those chicks called? There's a name for them. I told Judy what the name was the other day. Well, there's a name for them, the little chicks. Anyway, once those chicks grow up, though, you begin to see usually 2. Now, sometimes you see 3 stay together, but what happens is that the young males get driven away from the rest of them. Alligators the same way. That's why you see alligators on the move, because those are young males being driven away from the other ones. The other males drive them away. This is so they spread out, cover the earth, as it were.
Colts.
Huh?
Colts.
Colts, yes. I knew it was something like that, colts. You know what a group of flamingos is called? A flamboyance. It's a flamboyance of flamingos. That's what it's called. Little swans are called cygnets. I knew there was an unusual name for those little sandhill cranes. They're called colts, like a horse. Colts. Anyway, see the things you learn when you come to Bible class? It may not be about the Bible at all, but so Israel took his journey with all that he had and came to Beersheba, offered sacrifice to the God of his father Isaac. They had a family altar there for a long time at Beersheba. It's on the way. It's south of where he was. We'll look at a map in just a minute. South of where he was, toward the way to Egypt. Then God spoke to Israel in the visions of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here I am. So he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not fear to go down to Egypt, for I will make of you a great nation there. And I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again. And Joseph will put his hand on your eyes. That means Joseph's going to close your eyes when you die. I think that's what that means. Make sure your eyes are shut. Then Jacob arose from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried their father Jacob. That means also you're not coming back in your lifetime. You're not coming back here. So the sons of Israel carried their father Jacob, the little ones, their wives, in the carts which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. So they took their livestock and their goods which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and they went to Egypt, Jacob and all his descendants with him. His sons' sons, his daughters, and his sons' daughters, and all the descendants he brought with him to Egypt. Now these were the names of the children of Israel, Jacob and his sons who went to Egypt. Reuben was Jacob's firstborn. The sons of Reuben were Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The sons of Simeon were Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul, the son of a Canaanite woman. The sons of Levi are Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Now those are going to figure in later, those sons, because God in the law under Moses later is going to make note of the sons of Levi for priests and their descendants. The sons of Judah were Onan, Shelah, Perez. Perez is in the line of Christ, and Zerah, but and Onan died in the land of Canaan. The sons of Perez were Hezron and Hamul. The sons of Issachar were Tola, Puvah, Job, and Shimron. The sons of Zebulun were Sered, Elon, and Jaleel. These were the sons of Leah, whom he bore to Jacob in Padan Aram with his daughter Dinah, and all the persons, his sons and daughters, were 33. So Leah had 33 descendants. Sons of Gad were Ziphion, Haggai, Shunai, Ezbon, Eri, and Arodai, and Areli. The sons of Asher were Jimnah, Ishua, Ishui, Beriah, and Sarah and their sister. Sons of Beriah were Heber and Malchiel. So those are grandchildren, see. These were the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah, his daughter. These she bore to Jacob, 16 persons. The sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, were Joseph and Benjamin. So when you add them all up, you get 70 that came down. Leah had half of those, basically. And to Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Ashtanash, the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On, bore to him. The sons of Benjamin were Bela and Becher, Asbel, Gera, Naaman, Eli, Rosh, Muppim, Huppim, and Ard. There's Muppim and Huppim. They must have been twins. And Ard. These were the sons of, well, I mean, you know, these are good names. They're real solid Bible names. There's no Morgans and Ashleys and Jennifers in here, you know. Taylors. There's none of that in here. Oh, I know. And they're like these names. These were the sons of Rachel who were born to Jacob. Well, you all know that there was two kids born out, I think in the Glades. This is true. Two twins. Lamangelo and Orangelo. Orange Jello and Lemon Jello. That's actual true now. Just like there's that very famous woman, one of the most famous women in Texas history. Her father was governor, I believe, for a long time, named Hogg, H-O-G-G. I forgot his first name, Hogg. His daughter is named Ima Hogg. And the rumor was his sister was named Ura Hogg, but that's a fable. Ima Hogg she never married. She was a very wealthy person. She was a great philanthropist and all kind of stuff that she did. You can look her up in Texas for a long time. Ima Hogg. There you go. People have fun with stuff like that. Anyway, some of you all still think I'm making that up, but I'm not making that up. You can look it up. Don't do it now. We're in Bible class. Make a note to yourself. Set an alarm to go off at 2 o'clock. The sons of Rachel were born to Jacob, 14 persons in all. The son of Dan was Husham. Sons of Naphtali were Jeziel, Guni, Jazer, and Shillem. These are the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to Rachel his daughter. She bore these to Jacob, 7 persons in all. All the persons with Jacob to Egypt who came from his body, besides Jacob's sons' wives, were 66 persons. And the sons of Joseph who were born to him in Egypt were 2 persons. And the persons of the house of Jacob went to Egypt were 70. Now, 70, it sounds like a lot. My parents have at least 70 descendants. I'm sure I have to add them all up someday. I've got 20-some people in my family. But the thing is, what he's trying to tell you is, when they come out of Egypt, they're a nation. This is not a nation. This is a big family. When they come out of Egypt 430 years later, there may be 2 or 3 million that come out when you add up the numbers that they give when they come out. He gives numbers in Exodus. And when you add up then the women and children that weren't included in those numbers, you see that they were just a couple of million people. So they really increased in number from that point. Didn't God just tell Jacob, I'm going to make you a great nation while you're there? That's what he's telling him. You're not a great nation now. I've promised Abraham that. I promised Isaac that. I promised you that. Now you're at the end of your life. You only see 70 or 80 people. You're going to become a great nation down there in Egypt. Then he sent Judah before him to Joseph to point out before him the way to Goshen. And they came to the land of Goshen. So Joseph now here's Judah again. Gary's not here at the hospital, but kind of leading this caravan, as it were. And they came to the land of Goshen. So Joseph made ready his chariot, went up to Goshen to meet his father, Israel. He presented himself to him and fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said to Joseph, now let me die since I have seen your face, because you're still alive. It's been how many years? Close to 20 years. I'd have to think about that. I should have added it up. We don't know for sure. It's been 2 years of the famine, 7 years before that of good. That's 9. It was 2 years in prison before he got reported. That's 11. and however long he was in Potiphar's house before that, close to 20 years. Then Joseph said to his brothers and his father's household, I will go up and tell Pharaoh and say to him, my brothers in the house of my father's house who are with me in the land of Canaan have come. Pharaoh's going to say, I thought you could bring your family, but what? This is your family? This many? I meant about 15 people. Anyway. The men are shepherds, for their occupation has been to feed livestock. And they have brought their flock. He's going to tell Pharaoh this now. They brought their flocks, their herds, all that they have. And so it shall be when Pharaoh calls you and says, what is your occupation? Then you shall say, your servant's occupation has been with livestock from our youth even till now, both we and our fathers, so that you may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians. Now Joseph has in his mind, I want you to get the best of the land. Joseph's mind, having grown up in Canaan, is the best of the land is where all these flocks can live, where all these animals can live. It's got the water being here, and you'll see where it is in a moment. And the Egyptians might want to live somewhere else. So you tell him, make sure you tell him, don't hide it that you're a shepherd, because he's going to want to put you there when you tell him you're a shepherd, away from him a little bit, not far, but a little bit away. And that was the land that Joseph wanted them to have. This sets up 400 years later the Exodus. This is kind of leads into the Exodus. So Joseph told him what to say to Pharaoh. Then Joseph went and told Pharaoh, and he said, my father, my brother, and their flocks and herds and all that they possess have come from the land of Canaan. Indeed, they are in the land of Goshen. So he took 5 men from among his brothers. He didn't take all 11, he took 5. Didn't say who. They presented him to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said to his brothers, what is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, your servants are shepherds, both we and our fathers. And then they said to Pharaoh, we have come to dwell in the land because your servants have no pasture for their flocks, and their famine is severe in the land of Canaan. Now therefore, please let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. So the shepherds are an abomination to the Egyptians. We don't know much about why that is, except I think they considered themselves above that class of people. Well, even in Israel, today, the Bedouins, the shepherds, they live on the outskirts, and they're considered to be kind of lower class. They're very wealthy, according to our guide. You look over on the road, from the road, and you see all these. They got a bunch of plywood shacks and tin holding up stuff, and that's where they live. You see them with their flocks out on the hill there. And you're looking, he says, don't feel sorry for those guys. They got a lot more money than all of you put together. But that's the way they like to live in Canton. They used to travel around. He says, these shepherds here in Israel now don't move. They stay where they are because it's too dangerous to take their flocks over there into Syria or something and get stuck there because of a war, and all this stuff, and they don't know who all is there. So where they're in Israel, they were safe, and so they stayed there. But they're still shepherds. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, your father and brothers have come, the land of Egypt is before you. In other words, they can have any place they want. It's all before you. Pick your spot. Have your father's brothers dwell in the best of the land. Let them dwell in the land of Goshen. You can have any of it. I say they should go to Goshen. And if you know any competent men among them, then make them chief herdsmen over my livestock. So there you go again. Now he's promoting Joseph's brothers up. And what he's saying, you got any among your brothers there, or your nieces and nephews, grandchildren, make them chief over my livestock too, since they're shepherds. So the Egyptians had livestock. They just didn't associate too much with the shepherds of the livestock. Just like people in New York City like steak, but they don't think too much of cowboys. Right? That's how it works. Fishermen don't think much of fishermen, but they like fish. Then Joseph brought in his father Jacob and set him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. So here's a map. I didn't put it over here. If you look over on the left of the map, you'll see the Salt Sea, it says there. That's the Dead Sea. And just north of there, a little bit, you'll see Shechem and Bethel and Bethlehem, Hebron. Apparently, Jacob was living near Shechem there, kind of in the letter T from Egypt. Come down to just a little bit to the right, there's Shechem. That's where they were. And they traveled south along that coast. You see how they would come by Beersheba, which is down by the bottom of the Dead Sea, Salt Sea. Then they went over to Egypt, straight across. Now, Hierapolis, or On, is where Pharaoh was, from what we know. That's where the palaces were. That's where Joseph would be living, at Hierapolis. It's telling me to check my activity rings. I need to be a more dynamic preacher, I guess. But Hierapolis is where Joseph was. You see where Goshen was. It even mentions another place here that they went toward Ramesses, which is the name of another pharaoh and so forth. And he had a great city there. But that land up there, the delta of Egypt, the delta of the Nile spreads out. See how it's all green there? It's not dry. And there's much more pasture land. If they had been around Hierapolis, there wasn't as much, because almost all the population of Egypt was down there around where it said Hierapolis and Memphis. So he was sending them up where there wasn't as much population, where there was plenty of open fields that they could have their flocks in. And then they were able from there to easily cross the sea, the water, over into, later on, going back to Canaan. We'll come to that story differently a little bit later. So Pharaoh said to Jacob, "How old are you?" Jacob said, "The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life. They have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage." Abraham lived 175 years. Isaac, I forgot how old Isaac was, 150 years, I think, something like that. He's 130 and is already feeling old, which is typical. The ages have been coming down all through this story. The length of people's lives has been slowly coming down to get around 120 years or lower. 80, 70 years is where we are now, and that's where the Bible says we are. So he says, evil and few have been the days of the years. I haven't lived as long as my fathers. I'm not going to live as long as them. And evil, by that he means not evil not in the sense of moral evil. There's two ways the word evil is used in the Bible. One way is moral evil, like murder or adultery is evil. The other way is just evil, meaning bad things have happened to me. Calamity, disasters, disappointments, heartache, sorrows. The word evil is used to mean that kind of evil. And so that's how Jacob uses it here. A lot of bad things have happened to Jacob. All the struggle with his brother and having to leave his mother suddenly because he deceived his father, and then getting deceived about his wives and all that trouble. So he's had a lot of trouble in his life. So Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph situated his father and his brothers and gave them a possession. Now you see the relationship here between Jacob and Joseph and Pharaoh is a very cordial one. Now later, you get to the time of Moses, how's that relationship between Israel and it's fractured. They now are slaves. So this had to be strange reading to the Jews because they were used to the Egyptians being enemies, and here they're friends in this part of the story. And Joseph situated his father and his brothers and gave them possession of the land of Egypt and the best of the land and the land of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. Then Joseph provided for his father, his brothers, and all his father's household with bread according to the number of their families. Now there was no bread in all the land of Egypt. Famine was very severe, so the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan languished because of the famine. They were barely hanging on, even in Egypt. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they brought and and Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. So when the money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, "Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? The money is, we don't have anything to pay you with anymore, Joseph. We've given you all of our money for bread. You've kept us alive, but we're dying. We have no more money." They can't make any money. Their flocks are dying. They can't increase their flocks. They have no way to pay him. So they can't sell anything. Then Joseph said, "Give your livestock, and I will give you bread for your livestock if the money is gone." So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses, the flocks, the cattle of the herds, the donkeys. Thus he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. This sounds like the government working, doesn't it? First they take your money, and then they take your land, then they take your car, your transportation. Now they're going to come after your land. When that year had ended, they came to him in the next year, and they said to him, "We will not hide from my Lord that our money is gone. My Lord also has our herds of livestock." Now by this time, Pharaoh had armed 86,000 IRS agents to make sure this got taken care of. But he says, "There's nothing left in the sight of my Lord but our bodies and our lands. All we got left is ourselves and our land. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, that we and our land will be sent servants of Pharaoh. Give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land may not be desolate." So Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh. And every man of the Egyptians sold his field because the famine was so severe upon them. So the land became Pharaoh's. Is this a prophecy or what? As for the people, he moved them into the cities from one end of the border. These are these 5-minute cities you've heard about. Y'all heard about 5-minute cities? This is the new dream of the world, these world organizations, that everybody are going to make everybody move to within 5 minutes of everything that they need. Build new cities so that you can walk 5 minutes and you can have everything you need at your disposal. You won't need cars. You won't need anything except just walking to the grocery store or whatever you need. 5-minute cities. It's the new thing. You need to catch on with this. Get the vision. Get the progress and how much progress this is going to be. So this is what happened here. Only the land of the priests he did not buy. He herds them all into cities. They're closer. They don't have any livestock. He owns all the land. And he did not buy them, for the priests had rations allotted to them by Pharaoh, and they ate their rations which Pharaoh gave them, and therefore they did not sell their land. So the priests didn't sell the lands. Protects us religious people, see. Then Joseph said to the people, "Indeed, I have bought you and your land this day for Pharaoh. Look, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. It shall come to pass in the harvest that you will give 1/5 to Pharaoh, 20%. See, 4/5 shall be your own. And as the seed for the field and for your food, and those of your households as the food for your little ones." So they said, "You have saved our lives. Let us find favor in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants." So Joseph made a law over all the land of Egypt to this day that Pharaoh shouldn't have 1/5 except for the land of the priests only, which did not become Pharaoh's. Now, in the end, I think he gave them their land back and seed to plant on it. That's not real clear, but it's possible they did. Anybody have any confidence that our overseers will be as wise as Joseph? So Israel dwelt in the land of, I know, is that the second bell? The end is about the book of Revelation. Okay. And so Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions there and grew and multiplied exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Egypt 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life is 147 years. When the time drew near that Israel must die, he called his son Joseph and said to him, "Now if I have found favor in your sight, please put your hand under my thigh and deal kindly and truly with me. Please do," he's wanting him to swear something. "Please do not bury me in Egypt, but let me lie with my fathers, so you shall carry me out of Egypt and bury me in their burial place. And he said, I will do as you have said. And then he said, swear to me. And he swore to him, and so Israel bowed himself to the head of the bed. So Jacob swore that he would not let them bury Jacob in Canaan, in Egypt. And you'll see that he keeps his promise. Okay, thank you for listening to all that foolishness, my comments and so forth.